Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Authors Up, our favorite place to be at 7 p.m. on Sunday night. And we hope that you are making it your favorite place to be as well. This is a forum for authors, by authors, and we have lots of wonderful things to share with the writer in you because we always say everybody has a story. It just depends on whether or not you want to tell it. And now we get some information as to how you might want to tell that story. And Ruth is going to be bringing us something that you may not know a lot about tonight. And we almost didn't start on time because we were busy talking to her about what she's going to be sharing tonight. But I will give my co-host an opportunity to greet you this evening, Ruth and Victoria. How are you ladies doing? And how would you like to say hello to our listeners and viewers?
Victoria.
Oh,
No.
we're so polite.
Oh,
Hello,
yeah.
everybody, and welcome one, welcome all to Authors Up. So glad you took the time to be with us tonight. And that goes for our viewers and our listeners. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
You said that so well. I'm just going to say welcome. Thanks for joining us.
What?
I'm saving my voice.
Oh, you're saving your
Yes.
Okay, I can't mess with that. Then I'm gonna have to leave that right where it is.
Exactly.
We say good evening to Linda this evening, and we see another author out there. We see Leah. Good evening to you, Leah. Thanks for being with us tonight. And Naikayeta is a writer too. And
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. And maybe one day she will get her writings.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's start the way that we usually start on Sunday evenings, and that's by sharing with you our weekend review. And we're going to start off with Miss Ruth this evening. Ruth, what was happening in the world of Griffin last week?
Um, like you guys can't guess. So you know what I'm going to talk about. That's what I'm
Baby
going
more.
to talk about this year. So we got countdown going. Less than
Yeah.
60 days.
Woo!
60 days.
How is Mama feeling?
Tired.
Uh-huh.
Tired.
Okay.
So yeah, she says she's fine. So
Okay.
I'm gonna
Okay.
take that. Um, but she's tired. You could tell just by
Yeah.
listening
The
to her.
baby's
So
moving around. Has the baby
hmm
dropped or she's
hmm
still oh,
hmm
okay. I know now I know why she's tired.
yes, yes. So yeah, she said the baby's getting ready for turning in the right direction for birth.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's exciting. Yeah. So I mean, I had work and life and stuff, but that just that was basically my
Baby's due in April. No.
no, at the end of March.
Oh, at the end of March.
Yeah.
Okay, I was listening to you talking about the baby turning dropping. I thought she's moving awful fast.
Well, no, she might come early.
Well, I mean,
She was coming along later. I don't know why.
you know what? And the thing is, baby gonna come on, baby gonna come. So,
True. That's true.
I science, well, health is still not, I don't think it's an exact science, not
Right.
at least with the doctors I have.
Right.
But I take a due date as them guessing. That's their best
Guess
guess.
it. That's it.
So if she comes earlier than that and she is healthy, that was her due date.
Yeah.
She knew. She just didn't tell nobody.
She finished baking. She gonna pop the oven.
That's it.
When she gets here, she gets her. And we're
I
gonna be
can't
happy
wait to see her. I know she's
every day it is.
kind of beautiful. I'm
Mhm.
telling
Oh
you.
yeah, I'm telling you. Yep.
Joy.
Yeah. So
Joy.
that was my week. Yes.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I had a week that wasn't necessarily full of joy,
Okay.
but it wasn't a sad week either.
Mhm.
You all, many of you who follow the programs that I have, especially 8 at 8, I always ask you to pray for my friend, Pastor Gloria Kennedy. And She transitioned on Thursday, and I was on the phone with her daughter when she did.
Oh wow.
Um, we're going to do a program. And Leah, since I see you there on the line, I hope that it will be one that you will participate in with us. Um, Talking about living with loss.
Okay.
Um, and it's not going to be a program necessarily about grief or steps going through a grieving process. It's going to be just what it said, living with loss. There are different kinds of losses that we all go through, and and all of us handle them a different way.
Yes.
For me, I am just grateful, and I had said the other night that Gloria and I had been friends longer than some of you out there are old. I mean, we've been friends that long,
And that's
and
a
it,
beautiful
it, it's an unusual thing to be able to keep a friendship pre-salvation and post-salvation.
Oh
thing.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we were blessed enough, and in her last days, we spent a lot of time talking about the fact and that fact, and
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
blessed we were to have been able to have a friendship that lasted that long, and how we changed.
Mm-hmm.
When I first met her, um, I would not pray out loud. If anybody can believe that, I would not pray out loud.
Not hot. What?
Mm,
Oh,
Say
uh,
what?
no, man. And church I was going to one night during the week, midweek service, and he said, Sister Hines is going to come up and open us up in prayer. And I remember going to him afterwards and saying, please don't ever do that to me again. Please don't. I just, uh, but how I changed out of that is a story for another day. And I think I might
Okay.
share that at some time, because I don't want to take up a lot of time this evening. But by the time we got to this point in our lives, it was the other way around. I always prayed. And her daughter would call me and just put the phone up to her ear, and I would pray. So it was a beautiful friendship over a lot of years, and I'm just grateful. I'm grateful we had that time together. So um, I'm sad, but I'm not sad.
Okay. I
And
get
so that was my a lot of my week, and a lot of my weeks leading up to this have been spent in prayer for my friend, and in gratitude
mm-hmm.
uh, for a friendship that lasted that long. So it's kind of a somber week, but kind of a rejoicing week at the same time. So that was most of my week last week. So we'll see what God has in store with how He wants me to share what He wants me to share in the coming days. So when those shows come up and I post them, you all please come and help to support us through the journey. I think Francina is going to co-host with me on that show. So we're just gonna talk a little bit and lift each other up, and just
hmm
you know be grateful. Just
Sounds
gonna be great.
good. Sounds
Yep,
good.
yep, that's what we're gonna do. And Victoria, I know you got something exciting coming up. Well, I call it exciting, but you may not.
You may call it exciting all you want. Yeah, I'm moving from one apartment to another across town, and honey, if I could turn this camera around to show you the mess I'm really sitting in, and how I had to rig this thing up for the night. Ooh, so I'm trying not to move it so much, because it may all come crashing down. And if I go off camera, that means I've touched something, but I'll be back. But
That's the good news. You always return.
That's what's been going on with me. Work last week. We were actually home for 2 days because of the snow and the ice. I work for the public school system, and of course, when there's bad weather, inclement weather, they shut it down. They're not playing
Mhm.
with these kids, and I shut it down too because my car don't have skis on it either. So I was grateful for that though because I was able to do some more packing on those days, and so a little farther along than I need to be, but I'm ready to do it. I'm at that point now where let's go. But I can't get it done until Friday. But oh, see, I just pray for me because honey, it's a lot. But I have been finding some things that were missing, some important papers. I found some letters I had written to people. I found cards. I found every little thing that my kids have given me along the way to show me love, and I felt so loved today when I found one that my youngest had drawn, and it had a finger, the fingers on it, and at the end with glitters, gold glitters and silver glitter for the nails. And it was just each of those in between the fingers had little sayings like you are beautiful. You
Oh.
your smile lights up the room when you enter it. Oh,
Oh,
oh, oh, what I tell you, that just touched my heart tonight. And
oh,
oh, so it's been a bittersweet time, but I had promised myself in clearing out clutter, I was not going to take the clutter from one house to another. That this is it.
Mhm.
So I'm really grateful for that. I'm just grateful, and I'm just going to say that I'm grateful to Elder. We talked a little bit about how I had experienced a lot of grief over the past couple of years, but I'm also grateful for the love that remains.
yeah,
And I'm also grateful for having love in all forms. I too have friendships that have surpassed over 40 to 50 years, some of them. And so I understand fully what you're talking about. And we've lost some people along the way, and it's been a little heavy, but I'm grateful.
yeah.
Always going to focus on the grateful and the love that was shared. And when you focus on that, it just changes your perspective. So that was my week. So
The
what else?
love and the laughter.
Yes,
The
yes,
laughter. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, shameful things, shameful things.
That's right. Some things will never be talked about by you or her. So she took them, and then
The
you gonna keep them.
pre-salvation life.
And
But
did you
God
see?
is good.
I was saying, did you see Leah's comment? She said that she would do anything for you. Just let her know how she can serve you.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Lee, you know I'll be in touch with you. We got some things to talk about anyway. But I will be in touch with you soon. And Miss Ruth, we are ready. I mean, I'm ready to turn this over to you because I have a couple of questions.
All
Yeah.
right, let's go.
Just a
Let's
couple.
do it, my bronze
Right.
girl.
What usually when we're interviewing folks, I'm the one that says, I don't have a question. I don't know what. And then I end up talking way too much. But this time, I got questions. I got questions.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get started then. So, we're going to talk about serialized fiction tonight, or the serialization process.
All right.
And so, I've been doing this now, writing, publishing, for about 22 years. Um, and I remember years ago when Kindle singles came out, and that seemed like such a revolutionary thing where people were like, well, I'm just gonna serialize, and I'm gonna publish a chapter a week. And what I came to understand was that this is not a new thing. There is
Mm,
nothing new under the sun except us.
mm.
And the history of publishing goes back to serial novels.
Wow.
So I'm gonna give a little definition, because I believe in shared terminology. And then we're going to talk about the history of serialization, because if we have any listeners who are planning their novels, who are in those stages, this might benefit you. So, So serialized fiction is a story that is published in parts over time. Usually it's about a chapter a week or whatever they deem, is what they want to do. So it could be, it's just something consistent. Think about history wise, a lot of the bigger, the books that we read now, War and Peace, Charles Dickens, all of those began as serial novels. Pickwick Papers by Charles Dickens is often considered the first recorded serial novel. This is my favorite, Around the World in 80 Days. I love Jules Verne.
Yeah.
Um, he serialized that novel, 45 days in installments, recording Phileas Fogg's trip around the world. And the cool part is that as he got closer to the end of his installment, people thought that this was a real thing. And they
Oh,
started betting on whether Phileas Fogg would make it or not, as they did in the book. Um, so I thought that that was pretty cool. Like I said, War and Peace was another one. Alexander Dumas, The Three Musketeers, Count of Monte Cristo, Thackeray, Vanity Fair. They all
yeah.
published, yeah, they all published their novels as serials. And the
Wow.
reason for this is because it was, people couldn't afford books back then. You know, it was cheaper to buy a magazine or wherever it was being published a chapter at a time rather than invest in a book. So,
Wow.
yeah, and this is absolutely my favorite one. So I've been rereading Dracula lately, and came to find out that there was a lost version of his book. Now, he published a
Wow.
book, and there's a whole history there he was not pleased with because he had to actually change it for the publishers, which is something still seen in today's publishing scene. But the rights went out for other countries to publish it. And in Iceland, there was an editor who took, and there's a whole lot that was lost there, and they actually um, lost the history of this book. They literally, for 100 years, did not know that this existed
Oh,
because
wow.
they started serializing Dracula in Iceland, and they titled it Mac Mikrana. But somewhere along the line, the editor got tired of the book and he just started summarizing the latter chapters. So you get through like half the book, and then the last part, the chapters get shorter and shorter and shorter because he was just done with the story at that point. He was like, yeah, okay, we're going to finish this up. But, the point being that, people can, yes, we want to sit there and take the whole story in, but, you know, we talk today about people's attention span, and
Yeah.
it's getting
Yeah.
shorter and people are reading smaller books. No, we're just writing longer books and expecting people to read them. So
Okay.
it's just, it just fits in, and when our attention spans, you have exactly 7 seconds to get somebody's attention. If
Right.
you can't get it, you're not,
Wow.
you've lost them. So
Hmm.
um, I think serialization goes hand in hand, and there is a way for today's author to do that. Obviously, print, as in magazines and newspapers, are going out, but again, there are other ways to do that, and we'll get to it. So, how does it work? A serialized story is a single work, obviously, that is published under smaller installments. Each installment is like a short story or a novella on its own plot, and installments are connected by an overarching plot. Basically, it is, it can be a complete novel, it can be collection of novels. They say that it's, think along the lines of episodic television shows.
Hmm. Hmm.
Think like Battlestar Galactica if you're into science fiction or something like that. Um, it's just, you have your characters, you have your theme, you have what you're going after, and then you have these shorter stories in between that you just collect together. So, um, and again, it was less expensive, so it became
Mm.
easier for the public to consume. And that was the point. You aren't an author if no one's reading your books.
Right.
We write so that other people can read them. And this may be an avenue for you to do that. Um, so, you know, my own experience about a year and a half ago, 2 years actually, I started reading a serialized novel. The author had been working on it for 5 years prior, and she had just finished it, and now they were starting like a web comic version of it. So, but in reading that, I was now curious, and I started looking because the Asian book market, actually makes use of this. If you ever go to like the bookstore and go walk down the manga aisle, you will see stories that have 40, 50, 60 volumes of it. And to me, that was always intimidating because I was like, I'm not going to start the first book if I gotta get to 60, you know?
Oh my gosh.
So, but the thing is, you come to love these characters, you come to love the story, and they can be so well done. You're just like, okay, I'm invested.
Yeah,
So,
what's next?
yeah. Yeah, so I am that type of person. I was like, I can do that. So
Ah,
and I've talked about it before. I wrote a fan fiction, 63 chapters. I started off a chapter a week, and then I went to 2 chapters a week because I wanted to finish it up. And to me, the best part of it, I found a website that caters to fan fiction. And to me, the best part was just interacting with my readers. They would leave comments every time I posted a chapter. Some were funny, some were, really in depth. They would talk about the characters, they would talk about their thoughts, whatever it was. And it was just like, I'll be honest, it was addicting because, and you guys know, someone may come up to you weeks after you publish your book and they'll be like, "Oh, I loved your book. Oh, can you leave a review on Amazon?"
you're right.
It may or may not happen, or we don't hear from them at all.
Right.
And
Right.
Right.
not that it's discouraging, but it's, you want to know what people are thinking about your books. And this is, to me, that is a benefit of it. So, um, I want to say, you get direct feedback, you interact with your readers, and you improve your skill. That was the thing. I was able to say when I started, I wasn't winging it. We'll talk about the steps in a minute. But what I discovered was that each week I was able to say, by the time I ended, just by doing this each week for over a year, it takes me 7 hours to write a chapter, to edit it, and get it ready to post.
Wow.
7 hours, and it just,
Wow.
I was finding less and less mistakes. Not that I'm perfect, no
Yeah.
one is. But the thing is, it improves your skill. Writing is a skill. So,
Right. Right.
and it can lead to monetary gain. To be honest, the system that we have in the United States, it is, it benefits the publishers.
Right.
So
Right.
we do not make as much money off the royalties, even when we self publish. Now, when we self publish, we certainly make more money because the money is not going to the publisher.
Right.
But by serializing, you find the right website. Um, by serializing the story, you can now put it on a paywall and people will pay. You're building your fan base. People will pay to read your stories.
Wow.
So, and you get that right there. You get enough of them, you
And what
know,
did you call it? A paywall?
paywall. Yes.
Paywall.
Yes. So, there are, let's see, what are some of I wrote them down. Okay. So it can be published on a dedicated serial fiction platform. So like Royal Road is one of them. They heavy romance fantasy. Wattpad, that one's more
Oh yeah, I haven't heard from that in a
fantasy.
long time.
Inkit,
Mhm.
Patreon. You can do this on Patreon as well. There are quite a number of authors who do that. Substack is actually a newsletter platform, but they've created recently like a social media aspect to it but it allows you to create, to write, to send it out as a newsletter, or they can read it on the app, and it can be monetized. So there are a lot of options out there. And to be honest, I'm not on TikTok anymore. And in America, a few people, we may not be either, but um, there are people, when they create stories, they go part one, part two, and they're, sharing their story across those. It is the same thing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think we need to stop looking at this serial fiction, as something only other people can do. But how can you tell your story? Because I mean, think about it. Andrea, you're 70 plus. If you had to sit there and tell us your story right now, we would be here for a while, would we not?
Oh,
So,
you would. I don't know that I would.
but that's my point. We're not going to tell our story right now. If I had to even summarize the story I'm getting ready to write, that might take a while. But
Right.
by breaking it up, I doubt that we as humans ever had the capacity to sit there and go, I am going to read War and Peace over the weekend. It is a
Right.
great story. I'll
Right.
be honest, I'm only 2/3 of the way.
Right.
It is a great story, but my attention span is just not there to go, I'm going to read it over the weekend.
Right. Right.
So,
Unbelievable.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
All right. So before we get to the challenges and the steps, give me some questions or tell me your thoughts.
My immediate thought, my immediate thought
Uh-huh.
is how in the world do you manage to maintain your train of thought? And that might sound kind of odd, but
Okay.
when we talk about doing a novel, and sometimes it takes people, years and
Mhm,
years to do
mhm,
one. And I know just the time that I spent in NaNoWriMo and doing this second piece that I'm working on. I put it aside for a while and I went back to it and thought, who is that character? you know, what were they doing?
Yeah.
uh-huh,
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you had to read your own story all over again.
all over again
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
try and get it. How do you, and we talk a lot about the outline and knowing what the end is going to be,
mhm,
as you're developing all of this. And we talk about the fact that what you end with is not always what you start
mhm,
with because of how the characters develop. When you're talking about doing something that's going to end up in 60 volumes, I mean, how in the world? I don't even know how to ask the question.
Right. How did it come up?
How
How did
your
the, how did,
brain
yeah.
work?
Yes. To come up with
And
the story.
you can
Did,
yeah,
did, did it just flow? Were you just
it
typing?
can have it
no,
can,
absolutely not.
yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely not. And that is part of the answer to that is, the steps it takes to do this. The other part is that this builds over time. I'll take the story, the Under the Oak Tree. When I started reading that, and then when I read the backstory about the author, she's in, I think, her 30s or possibly even the 40s. She started this as just a fluke in college. It
Oh,
was just something she started writing down, like you, Andrea. She put it down and she didn't think about it for a few years. And then she picked it up again and started writing it. Basically, she wanted to tell the story of, she's like, the tag is that most fairy tales end in a marriage. This one starts in a marriage, but it's not a fairy tale. And it takes two broken people and it takes them through, I think, like 7 years of their marriage. So, but the thing is, she had to build upon it. She knew where she wanted to take it. And even then, like you said, where she ended it was not where she originally planned to end it. So It is something, like I said, it takes a lot of planning. You have to determine the story you're going to tell. And it's not like you're going to know, because as you go, things do change. Um, you have to plan it out. Even if you have to break it up into sections, like right now, I know the story that I'm working on, I'm gonna have about 200 chapters, but
Wow.
I know that I have to break it up into each section. Because of how I do it, I outline things. So I know some of the conversations that will be had, some of the things, but I have to keep dropping in notes. Oh, I have to remember to do this. I have to remember to do that. It is, you plan it out and then you go back and you start again. Um, and it's a little circular, but that's basically what it is. And it's just, as long as you have a road, it's like doing a road trip, you know, but you're not getting there overnight. So, I have a friend recently, she drove out to Idaho from North Carolina. Obviously, she was not going to do a 30-hour trip in one go. So she had to break it up,
Break it
and
up.
then she would get up the next day and continue where she went. This kind of writing does take a lot of planning and a lot of consistency.
Okay.
It
Um,
is not for the faint of heart.
Not
It
at all.
is
Don't sound like.
not. But the thing is, again, like when you start doing anything, it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to share a resource. Um, Simon K. Jones is a serial author. I found him on Substack, and he writes Tales from the Triverse, which is science fiction. He's got like over 900 pages written. He's continuing to write on it, but he wrote of his own experience, and he wrote a serialization guide, how to write serialized fiction. Um, and he wrote in there that, you know, the key to this is, again, consistency. And he went from being a sometime author when he would just try to write books. Now, as a serialized author, he's able to say, okay, I'm going to set aside Thursday night. I'm going to write out the chapter on Friday. I'll edit it on Saturday. I'm able to post it. So now he's freed up Sunday through Wednesday. And he knows when Thursday comes along, I'm going to write my chapter. So it not only improves your skill, but it allows you to take control of your schedule.
You have to be incredibly disciplined to do this. It's not just a matter. It is not just a matter of consistency. You have to have the discipline of I don't know who. I don't know.
I tell you,
You
my
have to
hat
have the
off to her.
discipline of Ruth Griffin, to make this work.
But again,
Because
I've been doing this for 22
things,
years.
Yeah.
I've,
so many things as a writer.
yes.
I think so many things can distract you.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
So many things can distract you. And this is just not a process where you can afford that. I mean, if you are not, and you were saying, Ruth, that it is addictive.
It is.
It's habit form, and if it is not, you will lose this thing. This
Mhm.
this train will take off from the station, and you won't know where it is. You won't know. You will not know. But I am just I applaud you for the writer in you that
Mhm.
can do that. And I think it's just not something everybody can pull off. And I just, when you said 900 pages, I just, my whole everything in me just wanted to take a nap. I can't even fathom. I can't even fathom. But I think that you have, uh, when we talk about the gift,
Mhm.
talk about the talent, and talk about a gift, this is truly an amazing gift. I think anybody who can write in this form. And I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you too, the episodes and things that we
Hmm.
see on television. Sometimes it is like one very, very, very long story,
Yes.
and other times it's like a story within a story. There's
Hmm.
one that's a mystery series, and they'll get to the point and they'll kind of solve that one,
Hmm.
and then they'll start the next week. It'll be a different twist or a different plot, whatever. You don't lose the characters. Your
Right.
Hmm.
primary characters are still there,
Right.
but the story changes.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes you get something like uh, uh, probably like a Game of Thrones, I think you
Mm-hmm.
would say was a serialized thing. Um, and I think the Game of Thrones got to the point where, like the author you were talking about, Ruth, I think they just got tired because the last season of it was
Yeah.
just awful. I mean, it was just awful.
Yeah.
And I was, but I looked at it anyway. But I
Yeah,
was
I know, right?
No, I watched it through. Yeah.
thinking to myself, this person just got to a point where either they just didn't know where to go anymore, or something. It just kind of
Yeah.
fell apart at the end. But it just amazes me. I
That's
don't
amazing.
even have the words for it. It amazes me that
My
you are able to do that.
Mhm.
my question is how you react with your fans. Did your fan feedback change sometimes the way your story went? Based on when you read the comments, and did you pick up ideas from anything your readers were giving you back?
Um, yes and no. So
Okay.
their feedback. So specifically, I already had the outline, so I knew
Okay.
where the story was going. But the
Hmm.
comments they would make would allow me to refine certain details or
Okay.
certain character developments, and I
Okay.
would be like, "Ooh, I forgot about that." Because again, Andrew, you are correct. It is, you have to keep on top of the story. You're gonna
Yeah.
forget if you
Yeah.
got 100, 100. You might forget a detail that you wrote, in chapter
Yes.
43, and you're on chapter, 79. So you might forget a detail. But the thing is, when you have the readers there, it is, you can't be thin skinned about it. Um, you have to you have to be able to take it, and more often than not, they're sharing their love.
Yeah.
That is what I discovered from it. And there are certain fandoms, that people can be not so nice.
Okay.
There are people out there, there are trolls and everything, but what I discovered was that more often than not, people want to encourage you. They want to keep reading. you
Yeah.
know when I completed the fan fiction that I wrote last year, what I got were notes of, thank you for writing this, thank you for writing it so well. i
Yay.
didn't I didn't agree when I started reading it, but you convinced me by the end. I'm like,
Ah, that's good.
oh, that's my superpower. So,
Yes.
It sure is. Don't
but
let anybody tell you anything different. That is a superpower.
For real.
yes,
For
it is.
real. For
Yes,
real.
it is. So
Oh,
it is, and again, you're right. Not everyone can do this, but I don't want people to think that, it does sound intimidating. But
yeah.
again, if you plan it out, this is something that, yeah, and you don't start on a grand scale. The author that I read that, started this whole journey for me, she ended up writing 455 chapters. I'm like, that's a lot.
Wow.
Her story was definitely worth it. She was
Okay.
on top of the details. Now, part of this was during COVID and all of that, but it was
Yeah.
just, you end up with an epic story at the end.
You said 455
Yes, 455, all
chapters,
in a row, all in a row. Yes,
chapters, not pages,
no,
chapters.
chapters.
I
I
just want
think it was like,
to
I think it was like 1.8 million words or something like that.
oh,
Somebody
Oh my
estimated it.
God.
Yeah.
And how long were your chapters?
And again, I'm gonna share the link for the the resource. But he talks about that as well, because again, you have to plan all these things out. He said,
Mm-hmm.
you can have, I specifically for me, I gave myself an average of about 1,500 words. So
Okay.
that's about, if you do the NaNoWriMo, that's about a day's worth, that I was doing at least once a week. So that gives that allows someone enough to read in a few minutes without getting boggled down. I know
Exactly.
for me, like some of the fan fictions on that website, I look, oh, it's only got one chapter, but one chapter is 10,000 words. I'm like, that's not a chapter, honey. That's a
That's
novella. So
Like the author we had last week, she told so much in her chapters, but they
mhm,
really weren't long.
no,
It was like
no,
2 or 3, 4, not even some not even 4 pages.
hmm,
But she said so much, and in the dialogue, explained certain
yeah,
things that we were looking for, and it was wonderful. It made such a good story.
yeah, no, and again, it's contingent on the author, but I think you do want to keep in mind too that you're you're giving your readers enough, and if you are the type of author that can fit that in 1,000 words, 1,500 words, good. If you're not, and you're a little long-winded, you have to find the right place to break it up so that you can continue, because again, you don't want to fatigue your readers.
Right.
The whole thing is planned out. So
Okay.
it is, you plan your platform, you plan your process, you plan what your story will be. For me, again, and we talked about the writer within, you use that outline to your advantage. This will give you a roadmap so that you know where your story's going and how it's going to go. And then it's just a matter of you sitting down and writing out each chapter as you laid it out. The only difference is now you're posting the chapter once you're done, as opposed to writing the whole book. So, yeah.
wow.
And I also wanted to mention, again, we talk about the serial fiction, but I wanted to give it a nonfiction application as well.
Okay.
Victoria, when you blog, you're in essence doing the same thing. You're
True.
putting your thoughts out on a
Mm-hmm.
regular basis on that
Places.
blog.
Right.
So
Right.
think back to the TikTok, when people do part one, part two, part three, and they're sharing their story, that's what that is. It is just, regular intervals. And you decide the story you're going to tell. You know, it's just, again, it's just a matter of planning the platform, your story, your process. So if you can get those down, and again, like you said, this is not for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but if it's intriguing enough to you, I highly recommend checking out Simon K. Jones's um, Substack.
Substack.
Yes. So his Substack, he's written a guide how to write serialized fiction. If you can just Google his name and that title, you will find, and it is not available as a book, it is on his Substack. So you read it chapter by chapter. The whole thing is available for free, but it gives you a step by step how he did it. And to be honest, when I read it, I was like, okay, I'm already doing that, but I'm good. What's the next step? What do I have to look out for? And he gives you every step of the way to say, okay, now you have to build your platform. He recommends Substack, and I'll be honest, I do too. But there are others out there that you can look at, Patreon being another one, um,
Mm-hmm.
Rock, Royal Road being another one. So, once you have all that, you're ready to go. So it's planning a trip. Again, for those who are interested, if you're good writing a book, go for it.
Write your book.
Write your book.
We
Yes.
like free though too.
Yeah.
I'm glad that that's free. See, free. Thank you, Simon K. Joe.
Yes. So Simon K. Jones, How to Write Serialized, and he is British, so that's serialized with an
Oh,
S, two S's.
okay,
So,
okay.
but yes, I would highly recommend it. He does have a podcast as well. He talks to authors and writes about the series. That's like we do. I don't know if he reads all the books, but he does talk to authors and stuff. So,
Cool.
yep. So
Awesome.
that is it.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, one thing that I can say is there is a way to tell the story.
Mhm.
Yes.
So
Yes.
anybody out there who is sitting on a story right now and thinks that they don't know how to tell it, Victoria E. Henderson, anybody at all, just that name, just I don't know, just came
Oh,
to
did
me.
you that name just came to you?
Yeah.
But there
It's
there is
fun.
there is a way to tell that story, and I
Yeah.
think it is very interesting, to highlight from time to time, which is what Ruth is so good at the tips and tools that she gives us, because there it doesn't have to be the same way all the time.
Right.
The book is a book, but the way that that book is written and the way that that story is told, it's just so unique most of the time, to the author and how they're doing it. The author that we had last week, Reddy, I can't think of her first name.
Isabel Ready. Yes.
Yeah,
Isabel
it's
Ready.
Reddy. When she was telling us that it took her 10 years,
Hmm.
to do the book, and it wasn't a 10 year. Oh, I set it on the shelf for five.
Right.
This was 10 years of research and 10 years of interviews, and again, it was that consistent process. But here's the thing: when I was reading that book, I didn't have one question about coal mining.
Nope. Not at all.
Not one. She explained everything in such detail, and not in a way that it was boring, not in a way that it seemed textbooky, or anything like that. It was a phenomenal read. It was a
She
great
she
story,
did
and
not. She did.
oh,
I've read other books that would begin,
yeah.
like explaining stuff before you even get to the story. She
Hmm.
didn't start the book with in 1907 there was a coal mining boom in the western part of of the year.
Kentucky.
During
Yes.
that time, coal mining was done by such and such. She didn't do that. She
Uh-uh.
didn't do that. She incorporated into the story, and it
And
was
made it and did it through her characters, and
yes,
it
Yes.
was just brilliantly done. And there are some wonderful stories out there, that we haven't tapped into yet. There are some different styles out there that we haven't tapped into yet. We are blessed to have a great editor and a great publisher as part of our team, and a wonderful storyteller.
yes.
I mean,
All right, that's right.
came up with
That's right.
a, a better trio here in terms of diversity of what we do and how we get it done. So I am just, I'm Ruth.
I do have one more question though, Ruth.
If I had
Yes.
a hat,
I
I'd
don't
take my
know.
hat off to you
I
tonight.
don't know if you have it as a banner or anything, but can you give us once again the site where we can go and read your story? Because
Oh,
I admit I haven't done it yet, but I would like to.
okay. So let me, it is called Archive of Our Own. Now,
Okay, okay. I'm gonna get it this time.
so it is a fan fiction website.
Pen.
There are fan fictions in there for just about everything. Every TV show, every anime,
Oh
every
wow!
yes, even Walmart has its own fan
Oh,
fiction.
what?
Yes, there's some strange ones in there. My story was called Second Best, and my yes, and my name, my pen name is my name, Ruth E. Griffin. So I keep it the same across the board. But
Okay.
that's what
And
it
what
is.
you say? Archive
Archive of Our
Of
Own.
our own.
of our own. Okay. Of our
Yes.
own.com. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Is it .com? No, .org.
.org. Okay.
Yes.
All right. See. All right. Now I got it this time. I'm gonna read. I'm gonna read.
Yep. Yep. So, and I will be establishing my own Substack this year.
Yay!
Yes, yes. So I've already got 3 stories planned. I don't call them books. I don't know how long they're gonna be, but yes, I'll be announcing those as we get them done. So I'm shooting for
Awesome.
a little bit later this year to have everything established. But
You have really grabbed the whole and just took
oh
off with
yeah,
this.
Yeah, yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah,
Yay.
And
I
then
have to.
don't think that you're not going to be here as a guest, because we are going to talk about your story.
Okay.
So just don't think that you're just going to drop this nugget and bring
Uh-huh.
it here.
Right.
You know, Victoria will need another tagline. She'll be saying, "Read the story," instead of "Get."
Exactly.
Well, see, you know what, and I know we are out of time, but I want to say this too because a lot of these serialized stories that I'm reading, they are also books, and that's the thing
Hmm.
because you get people who are you publish serial, and then they publish their first volume. And for instance, the one that I was reading, she published it first. She was published first as the serial, and then as the Kindle ebook, and now they're publishing collector edition hardcovers.
Oh
Wow.
So
wow.
it's not, and again, it's not that you can't publish books. You'll have material for books, so you'll be able to monetize. And again, this is where the monetization comes in
Yes.
because now
Yes.
you're getting paid for people to read your stories online.
Right.
They're paying now also to purchase your books because oftentimes we know if I like a story well enough, now I want a copy
Yeah, I
online.
was getting ready to say, once
Yes,
you've built up your fan base, when that
yes,
book comes out, they're like, yes, I'm getting this book.
Yep.
absolutely.
That's awesome. That is
Hmm.
awesome. Oh
Yep.
wow.
So
With
As always, Miss Ruth, you leave us with wonderful information all the time, all the time. Mind blowing. But I thank you for sharing
okay.
with us, and we'll have to come up with a day and time, Victoria, when we are through with
Okay.
reading it, so that we can come back and actually talk about the story itself. I
Yes.
think that's going to be a good thing for us to do. And Ruth, I'm still going to ask you. I should know, but I don't. So
And we should have gave her a break this week, right?
you know what to do.
Uh-huh.
You know what to do.
Absolutely. So we are on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Follow us, like, subscribe. You know what to do. Just search for Authors Up or Authors Up Show. You can also catch a replay on Saturday at 7 p.m. on Facebook, or you can download the show on your favorite podcast, or check us out on YouTube channel. Or and most definitely, please email us at authorsup@gmail.com if you have any questions or if you're curious on how to become a guest. So reach out.
There you have it, sports fans.
That's
Just
it.
have it all up for you tonight.
Hmm.
Thank
Yep.
you so much, Ruth, for all that you gave us and all that you
Yes.
shared with us. And thank you for our listeners, and thank you for our viewers who join us. We always have a wonderful time. I don't know about you guys, but I always learn something new, whether it is somebody we're interviewing or a session like we're having tonight,
Yes.
tips and
Yes.
tools. So I hope that is true for those of you who join us on a weekly basis as well. But that is it for us for tonight. We hope that you will have just a wonderful week. Just
Yeah.
have a wonderful week.
Yes,
Uh,
indeed.
Enjoy each day to the fullest. Find some good that you want to celebrate. And if you can't find anything, just pass by a mirror child. Celebrate yourself. It's all
That's
right. It's all right. It's all right.
it.
We will have a show for you next week, 7 p.m. right here on ALH Broadcasting. Authors Up is just the place to be.
It
So
is.
thank you so much. Thank you, ladies. And for
Thank
everybody,
you.
have a
Love you. Love
wonderful,
you, bronze girl.
wonderful evening. God
You
bless.
too.
Good
All
night.
right.